Could you take a few seconds, please, to explain, in your own words, who you are and what you've been researching these past, how many years is it now?
It's been way too many years. I'm an investigative journalist, and I've been looking into why McDonald's stopped serving pizza in the early to mid 1990s at most of its locations around the world. I will figure it out, or I will die of natural causes and pass the investigation on to my heir or my protege. Now, natural causes, very, very likely. Very likely. I have put a lot of security measures in place. I have a certain number of body doubles. I can't say exactly how many, but I have them on retainer. You can get them on Fiverr.com. Have you ever used Fiverr?
Rarely.
Search Fiverr.com for body doubles, and there are people all over the world who are willing to do the service for very little money, considering how much danger they're in. But I have various body doubles, laser activated anti-theft systems in my vault of various artifacts, pieces of evidence, etc., etc. I have trained in some martial arts. I have philosophically opposed to using a gun, so it's mostly just like hand to hand and some small bladed weapons. But I think that I'm fairly safe, but of course you can't be entirely safe. Just ask Ronald Reagan. I don't talk about it often, but I have one particular antagonist who has plagued me several times over the course of my investigation. Longtime listeners of the show will know when I first started the show, it was on the Panoply Network, or at least I thought it was on the Panoply Network. I said the show was on the Panoply Network. When you looked up the show on iTunes, it had the Panoply Network logo on the artwork for the podcast. This was when it was a podcast, by the way, before it had exceeded podcast quality to become an investigative journalism program, or IJP. I subsequently found out that I was actually not on the Panoply Network after I received a cease and desist letter from the actual Panoply Network. It turns out that there was a confidence trickster who pretended to be a gentleman by the name of Mark Panoply and invited me on the Panoply Network under false pretenses in order to humiliate me and try to derail my investigation almost before it even started. And this confidence trickster was a gentleman by the name of Monroe Boswell. He and I have a bit of a personal history. This is why I say that it sort of spans between personal and professional. We both worked in the same place many years ago, before I was investigating McDonald's Pizza. We were volunteers at a small animal hospice called the Santa Juanita Small Animal Hospice in Sun Valley, California. And according to the policy of the small animal hospice, when a hamster or a guinea pig or any sort of small animal passed away from natural causes after their hospice stay, they were to be buried in the small animal graveyard on the campus of our facility rather than flushed down the toilet. It was quicker, more convenient to flush them down the toilet. Obviously, you don't want to go outside in the hot sun and dig a little grave. Even a little grave can make you break out into a sweat. And I happened to notice that my coworker, Monroe Boswell, was just flushing the hamsters down the toilet and pretending that he was burying them in the graveyard. I brought this to the attention, I thought anonymously, to our superiors. Turns out that I was discovered as the, he called me a rat. And ever since then, it's been just one thing after another of him trying to humiliate me. And last I heard, he was being chased by Interpol. They traced him to a stolen, or hijacked, I guess you could say, private airplane. And someone saw him, a person that matched his description, jump out of the airplane over a wooded area in the Pacific Northwest. And he hasn't been seen since. So he's, of course, the main antagonist, and I just worked with professional law enforcement to bring him to justice. Obviously, he escaped justice by disappearing, but that's how I deal with a lot of these situations. I just contact the local authorities, and they know who I am now. I call 3-4 times a day with various, not even just threats, but sort of, I can sort of see dog whistles sometimes, metaphorical dog whistles in correspondences people send me that they might be antagonistic toward my investigation. You know, sometimes people will tweet at me and say, like, why are you doing this? Who cares about this, etc., etc. And I just go ahead and report them to the FBI.
Some might say that your research has been tangential at times, sometimes not even focusing exactly on the pizza at McDonald's. Sometimes it's fixing the McFlurry machines, or soda jerking, or what's that one? Flying a banner in Florida, warning the folks in Florida that the pizza served at McDonald's is not authentic. These aren't exactly investigating whatever happened to the pizza at McDonald's. So how would you react to a McDonald's pizza purist who says your research is not targeted enough? You know, it's got to be more specific.
Well, you use the word tangential, and I guess to be a tangent, it has to have a starting point on the main thread of investigation. So even the tangents, I guess, are somewhat related, but yes, some people have, I think, rather derogatorily referred to these sort of side investigations as side quests, which is, I think, some sort of a role-playing game reference, or video games. I'm not sure, I don't play them, but just to give you an example, one of my recurring, I guess, tangential investigations has to do with my local public library's missing copy of the film Willow, the 1980s fantasy film Willow on DVD. Well, I've been investigating. If you went on the website of my local public library and checked their catalog to see if their Willow DVD was checked in, it said yes, indeed it was. But if you actually went to the library, as I did, you would discover that the DVD in question is nowhere to be seen. And this led to a series of events. I requested that the library allow me to review their security tapes, file a police report for this missing DVD. They flat out refused. This led to some animosity. I'm banned from my local public library, but the good news is I determined that the rights to an official sequel to the film Willow were pretty much up in the air. So I've written a script, a treatment and a script for an official sequel to the film Willow, which I'm shopping around to various interested parties. And you might say, what does this have to do with pizza at McDonald's? Well, number one, the whole reason that I went to the library looking for this copy of Willow was because I had become so frustrated in my investigation into McDonald's pizza, running into various deceptions, dead ends, etc., that I needed to unwind, and I wanted to unwind and administer some self-care to my bodily person by sitting down with this copy of the film Willow on DVD and escaping into this fantasy universe of Willow Upgood, Mad Mardigan, and his various friends and companions. So that's how it was initially related, and now it's completely related because my treatment for the film Willow 2 is, the full title is Willow 2: Through the Portal of Time. In the film, Willow will team up with another fantasy character, Dar, aka the Beastmaster from the film The Beastmaster, and they will travel through a portal of time to 1991, aka the heyday of McDonald's pizza, and in the course of their adventure they enjoy McDonald's pizza, and it serves a dual purpose. It's entertainment, it's edutainment, it's educating about McDonald's pizza, and after the film becomes a major blockbuster, it will become sort of an activist project because McDonald's will have no choice but to recognize it by bringing pizza back as a promotional tie-in, at the very least, a limited time only, maybe. Well, now the DVD is very, very cheap. When it was stolen from my public library, it was out of print, and it was selling on Amazon.com used for outrageously inflated prices. We're talking $12, $13, $14, and that's before shipping. And now, of course, you can get it for 1 cent plus $3 shipping from most places because it's available for free streaming on Disney Plus.
So you recently moved to the city of New York from Los Angeles, if I'm not mistaken, and it's been quite a transition, I imagine. Are the people of New York more sympathetic to your journalistic enterprises than, say, the people of California?
Well, I think the main difference between the people of Los Angeles and the people of New York is in Los Angeles, people are not walking here, and in New York, they are walking here. So this poses a couple of interesting challenges and advantages for my investigation. I can go outside my apartment in New York City, and I can always find someone who is walking here. And so these are valuable data points. I can ask them, for example, do you remember when McDonald served pizza? If they say yes, then I can ask them to elaborate. If they say no, that's also a valuable data point. The disadvantage is that they're always walking here, so they're trying to get somewhere else, and they're not always willing to speak to me. But I'm sort of learning to navigate that. I'm trying to learn what might lure them in or convince them that maybe they should spend some of their valuable time speaking to me. So I'm in the process of obtaining my license to start cooking and selling halal.
How
that's
well positioned to
departure from
counsel people
pizza.
going through whatever.
Well, you have to do what you have to do, and I guess there's a long tradition of people sort of lost leadering by luring people into their establishment for a purpose, with some sort of a bait for a purpose other than what the bait is. For example, if you might walk by a T-Mobile store and they say, hey, come inside the T-Mobile store, you can get a free iPhone 15 on us. And of course, once you're in there, then they sign you up to an expensive contract. You're stuck in for 2 years. And of course, the free iPhone 15 actually results in profit for T-Mobile. Me, I hope to become one of the most sought-after halal stands in New York City. I'll be serving chicken over rice, lamb over rice. For a small extra charge, you can get the combination of chicken or lamb and lamb over rice, with a small side salad, cucumber, lettuce, tomato, etc. Choice of sauces, obviously white would be the most.
Are there any vegetarian options for over rice? Because it's New York City, there are an awful lot of vegetarians and vegans.
Of course, yes, rice over rice.
Rice over rice.
Rice over rice with white sauce. I'm still trying to figure out exactly, this may become a whole other investigation itself, what exactly white sauce is. Right now I know it is white, but there are many white sauces that taste quite different from each other.
That's true.
Of course, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this is seemingly ranch, but it isn't. It's some other sort of white sauce. But once
mayonnaise?
I do not believe it is mayonnaise. It may have mayonnaise in it as a base. Many sauces are basically mayonnaise with one or two other things thrown in there.
But again, I'm like, for now,
for example, Thousand Island dressing is just mayonnaise with some grass clippings from various islands and the Greek archipelago thrown in. But once I crack the code, so to speak, on what the white sauce is, then I will, like I said, hopefully have one of the most desirable halal stands in New York City. And once people are there purchasing my halal, obviously it takes a couple of minutes for me to cook up the meat or fry more rice to put over the rice. I can ask them, do you happen to remember when McDonald served pizza, etc., etc.
Gain lots of valuable data points there.
Exactly, and this is just one plan that I have to take advantage of the city.
Right. Makes sense. Why should a person care about whatever happened to pizza at McDonald's?
Well, I do not know if they should care about it, but I think almost everyone does care about it, because let's face it, McDonald's is one of the most popular restaurant chains on earth, and that's selling basically hamburgers and French fries. Obviously, they've experimented with other disgusting items over the years. Pizza in a cup, I think, was something they offered briefly. Various forms of hamburger, the Arch Deluxe, which was an adult flavored hamburger, and I think the only difference between that and a children's oriented hamburger is that it had mayonnaise on it. These things are fairly big sellers for McDonald's, even though pizza is obviously the most delicious thing they ever made. So if people are that enamored of the restaurant now, when they're selling inferior products such as hamburgers, French fries, etc., obviously they're going to be interested to know that they could be having something even better than this pizza. And then if they don't already know, when they find out that indeed they did used to serve it, obviously who wouldn't be curious as to why they stopped? It seems like a metaphorical slam dunk business-wise for them to continue. So why did they stop? And obviously these days everybody's interested in conspiracy theories, etc. Which android is Taylor Swift dating? How many explosives took down the World Trade Center? Is Kamala Harris a body double, a shape-shifting lizard, something like this? They're interested to know, well, is there some sort of a conspiracy behind McDonald's not serving pizza anymore? I don't know if there is, personally. I'm starting to believe that the decision to stop serving came from higher up than McDonald's. I don't know what that would entail, what kind of powers those are, if they're even human. But it seems very difficult for me to believe that the people in charge of McDonald's made such a horrific business decision, shooting themselves in the foot. So one day maybe I'll find out, like I said, hopefully before I pass away. But when you're talking about actual real information about extraterrestrials, I over the years have gotten some indication that perhaps, if not directly influencing McDonald's pizza, that the whole concept of the cuisine of pizza was passed down in ancient history from a higher intelligence to human civilizations, specifically the Egyptian civilization. Over the years, archaeologists have discovered various stelae, obelisks, tomb walls, etc., with hieroglyphics carved into them that resemble pizza. I'm talking about circles. And whether or not this has something to do with pizza, whether or not these were passed down from extraterrestrials, I'm still looking into. I did one time buy a ticket to Paris, France, fly on an airplane to Paris, France, land at the airport in Paris, France, take a taxi to the Louvre Museum in Paris, France, because I found out that they have a rich cache of Egyptian artifacts that I might examine. But it turns out I did not do my adequate research, and I went on a Tuesday when the Louvre was closed. So I had to get back in the taxi, go back to the airport, and fly back home. But one day I will go back when it is open.
In your podcast, there have been several complaints about the levels of rat viscera in New York City. Is that an ongoing
for this specific niche that
ongoing problem?
Like,
New York City seems to be mostly covered in rat viscera. As we speak right now, we're experiencing horrific rain that is flooding out most of the outer boroughs. I believe that Brooklyn is now completely submerged, like the mythical island of Atlantis. Hopefully one day archaeologists will be able to discover all the rich culture that existed there before. I now know, because of this, that perhaps the rat viscera is there for a reason. Some sort of waterproofing. I think once the squished rats and all of their inside juices are spread over the pavement, it hardens in the sun when it isn't raining, so that when it starts raining or snowing, there's a certain kind of waterproofing that happens because of the dried rat viscera. So now at first I was thinking, oh, I was obviously not a native New Yorker. I'm walking down the street, I'm stepping in rat viscera, and I'm thinking, this is disgusting. My feet are covered in rat viscera. I reach down to sort of try to wipe off the rat viscera, and now I have rat viscera on my hands. And of course, I don't know, we've all learned during the pandemic how many times we unconsciously touch our face throughout the day, our eyes, our mouth. I'm eating chicken tenders from Popeye's Chicken, for example, and the finger licking good, and I lick my fingers, and next thing I know, I have rat viscera in my mouth. And it took some adjusting, but now I know this is important for the local ecosystem. So I'm trying to learn to live with it, I guess. Long story short.
That's a positive attitude to
Thanks.
Spiritual leadership.
So, more topically, people talk about the existential threat of AI, artificial intelligence. Do you think that in your own line of work you could be forced out by a robot investigative journalist?
Obviously, no robot could meet or exceed the quality of the investigative journalism that I produce, but it's just interesting you should bring this up. That's just actually the topic of discussion on this week's episode of the program, which has not yet been published. As we're speaking, it'll probably be published tomorrow. I learned there are many authors throughout the world who have initiated a lawsuit against Facebook and its parent company Meta because they've been using people's books to train their AI robots for various things. And of course, I'm the author of a best-selling book, one of the best-selling books of all time, called How to Be an Investigative Journalist. So I telephoned the local Barnes & Noble in San Francisco, where Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, lives, and I asked if they might be willing to ban him from purchasing my book from the Barnes & Noble, so he won't be allowed to do this. I feel that strongly about AI. I cannot reveal right now the results of this request, but you'll find out on this week's episode of the program. I'm fairly satisfied with the results.
And overall, how would you describe how this ongoing investigation has made you feel? Has it lifted your spirits? Has it been an uplifting experience?
Well, there are, I guess you would say, ups and downs. Like I said, years ago, I was facing a lot of hardship having to do with just being stonewalled, I guess you might say, by the powers that be, various authorities at McDonald's and other places, plus also being the victim of various confidence schemes on the part of my enemy, Monroe Boswell, and others. That is discouraging and continues, but on the other hand, there are some very big upsides. Like I said, I've written and published one of the best-selling books of all time, How to Be an Investigative Journalist. And I don't know if you know that earlier this year I was awarded a Pulitzer Prize, and I just had to pay a nominal fee, a manufacturing fee for the actual physical prize, surprise itself, which I believe is like a metal medal, METALMEDAL, a metal medal. It was in the $1,500 range. And as soon as that check clears, 7-8 months will go by of manufacturing time, and then I will receive that surprise in the mail. It was a surprise, of course, when I was nominated. It's not a surprise anymore, I guess. A bit of a misnomer now. I guess I should call it the Pulitzer Prize once I actually receive it. But it was delightful nonetheless. It's one of the most prestigious awards in journalism.
Finally, if you had to do it again, would you have chosen to go down this wormhole of finding out whatever happened to pizza at McDonald's, or would there have been a different journalistic endeavor that you would have chosen instead?
That's a very interesting question. Very curious person, and obviously the question of why McDonald's stopped serving pizza is the most pressing issue of our time, so I'm not sure what I would have chosen above that. Obviously, I could have chosen less important things to spend my time on, but why would I? If I had not gone into journalism whatsoever, I suppose I would still be volunteering at this Santa Juanita Small Animal Hospice, but there was not much room to grow professionally there. Basically, everybody was doing all the jobs, so you would think it would be divided by skill level, let's say from the janitor on up to the bereavement coordinator, the person who actually contacts the families when the hamster passes away and lets them know. But we were actually expected to do everything. So there were days there that I was cleaning toilets while I was on the phone with the family telling them that their hamster had passed away. And everybody was on the same pay grade, which was very little. So I probably would have become burned out at that job anyway. I don't know what else I would do. Maybe work at McDonald's.
Any final thoughts?
No, I think that's about it.
Thank you.